Welcome to the Marvel Movie Marathon, and here it's time to get started with Captain America, the first Avenger, the greatest of them all. We start our stories in the 1940s. A young man from Brooklyn, Steve Rogers, is trying to enlist in the army so he can fight the good fight. But he's too small and scrawny, so this professor enlists him in a super soldier serum to give him amazing speed, agility, and strength, so he could go up against those evil Nazis led by the Red Skull, also known as the organization Hydra. And together with the Howling Commandos, they'll put an end to Red Skull's reign and before he takes over the world. Now, before the first Avenger came out, I was very skeptical of Chris Evans taking over the role of Steve Rogers because we know him exclusively as the Human Torch for so many years. But I was ready for him to prove me wrong. Going into this movie, I didn't know much about Cap. All I knew was that he was the leader of the Avengers. And I have a thing for leaders. So I was excited to see his movie more than any of the other ones. More than Thor or Iron Man. So I went in with an open mind. And I gotta say, I was pleasantly surprised. I love this movie. I love that Steve just wants to go out there and fight the good fight without any death of a parent or an uncle or a sibling, whatever. He just wants to fight because it's the right thing to do, and he hates bullies. And I think the reason he's my favorite character in this universe is because I used to be bullied as a kid too, so I can relate to him. And he's a dork. He doesn't know how to talk to women either, which, again, I can also relate to. But joining him is a badass played by Haley Atwell, Peggy Carter. Her and Steve have one of the most realistic romantic relationships in the whole universe because a lot of them feel forced. But this one, it just really feels like they're on the same team fighting the good fight. They want the same things, and you can see the chemistry jump off screen when they're together. It's a beautiful thing. And then you got the Red Skull, played by Hugo Weaving, and he's the light. But unfortunately, he doesn't get as much screen time as I wanted him to get. He's mostly delegated to, being in his laboratory and being an evil scientist. That whole cliche. And I think that's the major flaw of this movie is Cap and Red Skull, they only get maybe 2 scenes together, and that's a shame. But in an origin story, that's the price you have to pay. You have to set up the hero first, while the villain mostly gets a backseat. Out of all the movies in the MCU, this feels like an actual war film. And a lot of complaints that came out at the time was people said they felt like they montaged throughout a lot of the Captain America stuff. And, I understand why. You can't show Captain America taking down 6 Hydra bases. That's a whole movie in itself. And if you were lucky enough to play the video game, well, that fills in some of the blanks of those montages. Which, by the way, it's a great video game. It's kind of a rip-off of Arkham Asylum, but it still works, especially as a movie tie-in game. But anyway, the whole movie could have been just about him and the Howling Commandos. But I understand why they wanted to take this route. The most important thing is they establish the character of Steve Rogers. He starts out as a corporate puppet selling bonds, dancing on stage like a monkey, literally. But then he realizes that, this is not what he's meant for. Professor Erskine wanted him to become a hero. He knew deep down inside that what he was always meant to be. And seeing him free all those troops is a really fuck yeah moment. Also in the movie is Captain America's best friend, Bucky Barnes. And I also wish he had a little more screen time, but from the little amount of scenes we get between the two of them, you could tell they have a lifelong bond and that they're best friends. But seeing that Bucky's going to become very important into the future, he definitely could have used a little bit more development. But those are really, really small nitpicks, and what I think is a really fun action movie and great introduction to the first Avenger, Captain America. The post-credit scenes for this movie when it came out was the first teaser for the Avengers movie, and everybody in the theater lost their minds. Like, the hype for this movie was unreal now. It's like they promised something 4 years ago, this big team-up movie, and we never thought it would come to fruition, but there it is on screen, coming in May, The Avengers. And yeah, I was more pumped than anything. I was more pumped to see more Captain America. You know, I love the way he fucking throws his shield. He does the shield slash a lot. I love his bicycle. He has like little like James Bond type gadgets on his bike. And I love seeing him, you know, be a captain. Like, this is the only movie where we see Captain America be like a true captain to all the war veterans. And he's telling them like to go left, go right, do this. He's planning and scheming. That's what Captain America's good at. He's a good planner, a good strategist, because he's a captain. But I'm also not that crazy about the uniform he gets in this movie. I mean, this is his first one. He has a lot throughout this universe. But this one is probably my least favorite. But for the era where the movie takes place, it's appropriate. But it's definitely not my favorite costume. I also love the first time you see him in action. He's running at full speed through the streets of Brooklyn, and he's so fast he crashes through a freaking flower shop, I think. And he's using like doors as his shield. Like, this is a great introduction to see what he's capable of. He's jumping between cars. He's swimming really fast. Like, in these 5 minutes, you get a taste of what he's capable of. Just a taste. And it gets you pumped to see what he can do more later on, especially as his movies continue. And again, he's so smart. There's that great scene where he, instead of climbing the pole to get the flag to get a free ride back to base, he just pulls the pin and the flag pole just comes down and he takes it like a boss and just hops in the Jeep. Fighting in wars is not all about strength. You gotta be smart too. You need your smarts. And then there's an iconic scene where they're training on base, and Tom Lee Jones's character, which he's great in the movie too, he throws a dummy grenade, and guess what? Steve just hops on it. He, no hesitation, without thinking, he's like, I gotta protect my crew. And who knows, it could be foreshadowing down the road. I mean, I hope not, but, well, as you can see, he does sacrifice himself in the end. He pushes down the plane into the Arctic, which I think is kind of weird because they show that the bombs are controlled by actual people, so I feel like he could have just like deployed the bombs manually, and then he wouldn't have to crash the ship. But I get it. They needed to get him into the present day, and this is the only way I guess they thought of that made sense. I understand. I also wish they didn't show at the beginning that he was frozen in ice. I think it would have been a great surprise for the audience at the end when he wakes up in that recovery room. You're thinking, oh, he survived, he's still in the 40s, but then you pan out and he's running in the streets and you realize it's present day. That would have been a great surprise for the audience. I feel like the studio was like, you gotta make sure that people know he's coming back in the present day. You gotta make sure, else they're gonna be confused, and then we're not gonna sell tickets for the Avengers. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I think that's basically it. Like I said, I relate with this character because he just wants to do the right thing. He's just a kid from Brooklyn, and that resonates with me so much because I feel like I'm just a dumb kid from Brooklyn trying to do his best to make the world a better place sometimes. And he stands up to bullies, and especially now, year 2019, there's plenty of bullies out there. Real life, on the internet, everywhere you go. So we need a figure like Captain America more than ever. Next time on the marathon, we're going to be introduced to another captain. One that's way up there in outer space. As we continue on with the Marvel movie marathon. Thanks for watching.